Ladies and gentlemen, dear summit participants, warm regards from the Johannes Gutenberg University in Mainz, Germany. The next minutes I like to talk about the chances and obstacles green economy faces when looking at mega events. After some words on the status quo, I would like to introduce two important aspects from an environmental legacy framework. These are related to chances to green events, but also to some obstacles to overcome. At the end of my presentation, I like to give 4 recommendations you might find interesting to reflect. Due to the criticism and the ecological harm at the Olympic Winter Games in Albertville 1992 and Lillehammer 1994, the IOC put its focus on environmental issues. When in 1993 the IOC had to decide on the next host city, it was probably a great advantage for Sydney 2000 to have positioned as Green Games. However, it was only in 1996 that the environmental paragraph was integrated into the Olympic Charter, and only in 1999 the IOC developed their own Agenda 21, which brought the ecology becoming a central factor of the IOC's activities. FIFA has encouraged local organizing committees in regards to environmental protection only since 2005, when the German organizing committee launched the Green Goal environmental program for its FIFA World Cup, while in a similar setting, this Green Goal was taken over for the last World Cup in South Africa as well. FIFA and IOC today request comprehensive information from each bid candidate on the activities planned to avoid, reduce and offset the negative environmental impacts on hosting a World Cup or Olympics. After the description of the current situation, we now take a closer look at the overall footprint mega events leave behind. Even though the events last only a short time, its international exposure is the energy that drives organizers, city planners and politicians to perform the best possible. A day after the event, most event-related changes, the so-called footprint, is still there, which means the legacy of the event cannot be avoided, whether being positive or negative. The strategy of building up green event legacy starts with the decision to bid for a mega event, which is here seen as point 1, and then to change the structure in the city. Structure here is any event-affected change in the environment. It can be tangible, for example the buildings, or intangible, for example environmental education or the environmental image created. These two will be our further focus. Past events have shown that they can provide sustainable environmental legacies such as revitalized brownfields or improved environmental policies. They can further encourage and facilitate strong environmental actions through the educational value of good example. The greatest opportunity to be used to develop green economy is the visibility, branding and communication potential of an event to catalyze greater environmental awareness and a stronger commitment to ecological modernization. The chance mega events provide to green economy therefore is A, the free promotion and its signaling effect, and B, the creation of interesting educational material. Some theory is needed now to explain you the signaling theories. Signaling refers to sending out information to convey information about qualities of the sender that are A, normally hard to observe. So that means events can tell others that the host is a green destination. Or B, the signals can accumulate symbolic capital. This is telling others that the host can afford great environmental efforts. Both aspects are interesting here. Regarding costly signaling, the theory describes the use of costly signals, which are supposed to be hard to imitate because of inherent signaling costs to reliably convey information about the sender. The sender has to invest significantly into these signals, and the less useful, the more trustworthy they are. Thus, mega events often use ecological flagship projects for their new stadia. As the technology is quite expensive and often overdone in comparison to other environmental investments, the mega events are showcases and therefore excellent to create green symbolic capital. Regarding the opportunities for education, as I said, it can be said that events offer the chance to develop educational material for schools, as well as they provide many good examples for the population to learn a better environmental behavior. For example, the broad visibility of recycling boxes and free public transportation to venues are only two examples on how mega events start educate people. Integrating the topic of resource efficiency into educational curricula is, in the framework I just presented to you, an optional measure to be undertaken by the host city or nation. It therefore adds to the general education costs by governments, which is one obstacle to efficiently use mega events as stimulus for environmental education. This leads to my conclusion. IOC and FIFA have started to put the candidates into a prisoner's dilemma. A candidate cannot afford to not offer the best possible environmental program. Additionally, the interest in the bidding competition causes attention by media, which adds to the public pressure on the bidding committee. This not only puts the candidates into the prisoner's dilemma, but also into a so-called rat race, due to the opportunity to gain a better bidding position by adding into the environmental program. This is all fine, but the next step towards a green event economy has to be to also control the green promises after winning the bid. IOC and FIFA and the organizers are then jointly looking into organizing a great sporting event. All organizational bodies are now temporary or footloose industries. Their true interest in sustainability is limited. Time pressure and cost overruns challenge the organizers to deliver a qualitatively extraordinary sport event, which often makes the environmental concerns less important. What happens is that the flagship projects keep being implemented because they add symbolic capital. But other green efforts might get lost. My 4 recommendations. First recommendation. A green event economy has to value environmental assets and needs to regulate the changes induced by the event to translate these values into market incentives. Therefore, it is important that the IOC and FIFA, in cooperation with the national political bodies, adjust an event economy's measure by emphasizing environmental losses. The first initiative in this direction was done by the IOC through OGGI, but an incentivization is missing. Second recommendation. The host governments have to control all green activities after winning the bid. In other words, the responsibility has to be moved from a short-term oriented organizing committee to a governmental organization. This avoids the moral hazard situation of an organizing committee towards implementing a green economy. Third recommendation. Environmental organizations can increase pressure on the organizers by using the media hype on the event. Since the flagship projects build up symbolic capital, public pressure increases. For example, Qatar 22 promised to cool their World Cup stadiums carbon-free. Now, there is a worldwide expectation to develop green cooling technology which would build up symbolic capital when successfully implemented, but would damage the nation's image when failing. In this case, since Qatar has enough fossil resources, the World Cup triggers investments into developing new technology which potentially can be a green legacy for all nations which have to cool buildings in desert-like climate. Fourth recommendation. Governments should use the interest in events for developing educational curriculum. Mega events help to develop an understanding of green growth and are covering the priority environmental challenges from biodiversity, which is a good example from the golden bell frog in Sydney 2000, who was moved from one side to another, to sustainable material management, which is the waste management at venues. Thank you very much for your attention and have a successful summit.